What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. We continue with our 2023 predictions. Texas A&M is up next. Let's take a look at some of the other predictions for this team. The FBI has them at 7.5 and 4.5. Not really any chance to go to the SEC championship. Athlon has them at 8 and 4. The over/under is at 7.5. Remember, this team went 5 and 7 last year, and so most of these predictions not all that high on the Aggies. I'll kind of give you my thoughts on this team, but first, just kind of looking back at my predictions on Texas A&M the last few years. In 2020, I picked this team to only lose to Alabama, actually to go to the college football playoff. They were very close. It really just came down to the committee because they were right there with one loss, had a chance, and again, exactly how I predicted. And then I expected them to take a step back in 2021. And in 2022, everyone was hyping this team up, and I all offseason long talked about this team is not going to be a great team this year. They're just not. They're going to be way too young. I even overrated them. I can't remember my exact prediction. It might have been 7 and 5. Maybe it was 8 and 4. Not sure, but not as low as 5 and 7. I didn't see that coming, and so I've had a pretty good feel for this team. And this year, I just think that this is on the one hand, I think this team has a chance to really do something big. They've got the talent. They've got some experience now on the roster. They've got a couple of options at quarterback. You look at this team, they're deeper, and the defense, you look at the defensive line. I mean, they've got a lot of talent on this roster, and like I said, some experience to go with that. But then on the other hand, Bobby Petrino, how is that going to work? Is that going to blow up in Jimbo Fisher's face? I don't have a lot of confidence in Jimbo Fisher, honestly. So I think there's a chance the team has a really good season. I mean, a special season, potentially right there, a top 10 type team. And then on the other hand, I think it could be a disaster. So I don't really know what to expect this year. Like I said, I felt pretty confident the last few years predicting Texas A&M, and I've been pretty accurate. But this year, I just don't know. But I'm going to go with my gut here, and we're going to go through the predictions here. They start with New Mexico, easy win. Should be a good one to get everything figured out with Bobby Petrino now taking over. You've got, I think Connor Wigman will be the starting quarterback, but I think Max Johnson, I think he's a very capable player as well. Even going back to his time at LSU, he's a good quarterback. So like I said, you've got two options there, and they have really good receivers. Running backs, maybe not as good as they've had in the past. Offensive line should be strong again. And again, that defense has a lot of talent, especially on that defensive line. So I think they win that game easily. Then they'll play Miami on September the 9th on the road. Not necessarily the toughest place to play, but it is still a road game. And I felt like last year Miami was the better team, and Miami wound up, but really both teams wound up just having terrible seasons. It just seemed to get worse and worse for these two teams. But Texas A&M, from a talent standpoint, I think is still the better team here. It's a tough one. I really think Miami has a chance because this is going to be a talented Miami team as well, a team probably with more experience than Texas A&M. But I think that talent level is going to show here. I think Texas A&M, and again, these young players that have been there the last couple of years, or maybe just a freshman last year, I think they grow up, and I think you start to see some of that talent really show for Texas A&M. And then I think they beat Louisiana Monroe after that. So I've got them starting 3-0. Then they'll play Auburn on September 23rd at home. This is a series where the away team kind of dominated for a while, but it's kind of flipped around the last couple of years. I just don't think Auburn, talent-wise, is ready to match up with Texas A&M. If this was at home, I would pick Auburn just because that's a tough place to play. But playing at Texas A&M, I just think that talent is going to be too much. The defense for Texas A&M will be good, and I think they'll be good enough to stop Auburn in this game and get the win. Interesting, though, Auburn's going to have a really good secondary, and if Texas A&M cannot run the ball, you never know. This is a matchup that Auburn could possibly get, but I'm going to say Texas A&M wins it, and they improve to 4-0. Now, this is one of the toughest ones for me. On September 30th, they'll play Arkansas in Arlington. Last year, Arkansas, I don't think anyone would disagree, Arkansas was the better team, and they kind of gave that game away. This year, I think Texas A&M is probably the better team, and but you've got the revenge factor for Arkansas. I mean, there's just so much going into this game. The rivalry, it's always close. Can Texas A&M win a close game? Like I said, I've had a hard time making my pick on this game. It's just a tough one. But at the end of the day, I think the talent for Texas A&M is going to be the difference. I think they beat Arkansas again. They get to 5-0. You look at Arkansas, I think they're going to be pretty one-dimensional this year. I don't see this team being great throwing the football. I just don't. The receivers they have, they don't really have anyone that scares you necessarily. And KJ Jefferson, good quarterback. We know how he can run. We know the stable of backs they have. But can they run the football against this Texas A&M defense? That'll be probably the story of this game. The next game is going to be October 7th against Alabama. For whatever reason, Jimbo Fisher just seems to have Nick Saban's number. And I think maybe part of this is just because of the talent that Texas A&M has. Alabama can usually just out-talent their opponents. Well, Texas A&M actually has that talent. And I think playing at home, I think they do it again. I'm going to go with the Aggies to, I guess, upset Alabama. I'm assuming it'll be an upset. I'm assuming Alabama will be favored in that game. I just feel like they're going to do it. It's just kind of a gut feeling. Again, a couple of years ago, they beat them at home when they weren't very good. I think this Texas A&M team is a better team, and I think they beat Alabama. Alabama has a lot of question marks this year, and we talked about them a lot on the Alabama video. But I'm gonna say that A&M starts 6-0. I think they get off to a great start. They're a top 10 team, and then they go up against a Tennessee team in Knoxville. This is going to be a tough matchup here for Texas A&M. I think to win this game, you're going to have to outscore Tennessee. I don't see this Texas A&M team being a team that's just going to go out there and run the ball, control the clock. I think they're going to be more of a passing team this year than in years past, especially with Bobby Petrino calling the plays. And so I don't know if that strategy, if Tennessee's able to stop the run game for Texas A&M, Texas A&M's going to have to throw the football. They're going to have to get into a shootout, and that's exactly what Tennessee wants. And playing in Knoxville, I'm going with the Vols. I think Tennessee gives Texas A&M their first loss. So after an emotional win over Alabama, everyone's patting you on the back, 6-0. Then I think Texas A&M loses after that. And then they get a bye week, a good time for it after several tough games in a row. They play South Carolina at home. I think A&M just has a big advantage, again, in that talent department. Playing at home off a bye week, just really don't see them losing this game. I think they beat South Carolina, get to 7-1. Then they'll play Ole Miss on the road, and I think this is very similar to what I talked about with Tennessee. I think you're going to have to outscore Ole Miss, and I don't know if Texas A&M is going to be able to do that. In a shootout, I'm going to go with the Rebels here. Texas A&M probably needs to slow this game down a little bit, make some plays on defense, force some turnovers. They definitely have a shot, but playing on the road, big game here. I'm going with Ole Miss for, again, a lot of the same reasons I picked Tennessee. So 2 losses there, drops them to 7-2. They get Mississippi State next on the 11th. Should be a pretty good game, but I think A&M is the better team. I think they beat the Bulldogs, get to 9-2. And based off of my predictions, if you look at my other videos, watch my predictions going into this LSU game, LSU and Texas A&M could just be an Iron Bowl loss for Alabama away from this game deciding the SEC West. So this could be a huge game. Texas A&M at LSU. You look at the matchup here. It's a good one. LSU they had a lot of guys out. That game last year, it was a little bit of a fluke. If you watch the entire season, I don't think anyone would say that A&M was a better team than LSU last season. But playing in Death Valley, tough place to play for A&M. Revenge game for LSU. Brian Kelly now the coach there. They've got a guy that knows how to win, and I think LSU wins this game at home. So I think A&M loses 3 road games, Tennessee, Ole Miss, and LSU. Actually, there are only 3 SEC road games because Arkansas is a neutral site game. I think they lose all 3 of them. Maybe it could go a little bit different. Arkansas is a game that I'm having a hard time with. I could easily see them losing to Arkansas and then maybe beating Ole Miss. And maybe flipping those 2 games, but 9-3 still I think is the record for A&M. I think that's what the record's going to be. Maybe best case scenario they get to like 10-2. It's possible, but again, you could also see things really being a disaster and the coaching staff, it doesn't work. And this team, you got these 3 losses. They could lose to Arkansas, Alabama. I don't think they go worse than 6-6. That's probably the worst case scenario. But this is a team that's probably between 6-6 and 10-2. I think 9-3. What are your thoughts on the Aggies? Give me your predictions for Texas A&M down in the comments below.